And welcome back. What we're going to do now is we're going to take the phaser, the original phaser for the truck, and we're going to go ahead and get it modified with CompCam's phaser limiter kit. And the reason why we need to do this, if you remember, is that we're running an aftermarket cam. And I'm going to go ahead and modify the one that came with the truck because, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. It's perfectly fine. I did buy one to replace this with, but truth be told, I was installing this kit earlier and had a mishap with one of my bits, and one of the bits broke off. I didn't say broke off, and kind of messed up one of the bolts a little bit, but completely my fault. But just being 100% honest here, so I don't trust that phaser. So since there's nothing wrong with the factory one that we took out, we're going to go ahead and modify it. Again, completely my fault on that bit breaking, but like I said, we're gonna proceed forward. Like I said, you know, mistakes happen, and I'm not going to edit them out. The first thing that we're going to do is that, and let me show you the part number on that phaser limiter kit. And again, it's from CompCam's, just like we got with the valve seats and the valve retainers that we used when we were putting the cylinder head back together. And the first thing, and I'll put a link in the description to CompCam's install guide for this, as well as the install video that Reignited did when he did an aftermarket cam in his vehicle as well. But the first thing we're going to do is we're going to install this little block here. You notice it's got these 2 pins on it. And it's going to go right here, right where you see this pin come up on this spring. We're going to put that in there, and you see it's going to seat nice and flat. And I'm just going to tighten this up. There we go. Just so that it pulls that spring forward. You can kind of see it pulling the spring off of that pin. Now, per the instructions, and this is an important part, if you don't want to make this boo-boo, otherwise the spring will unravel inside that limiter, turning it into, and basically making it useless. But now that we've got our block installed, that was step 1. Step 2, this is the mark for the camshaft alignment. This is the pin on the camshaft. They want you to come straight down, and this guy right here, you're only going to loosen this one. You're not going to remove it. If you remove it, maybe you can see that in here, but you can see all those springs, and you can see how that spring arm is right on the other side of that pin. That's what's holding your spring tension. If you remove that all the way, bad things can happen. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a silver Sharpie here and draw an X on that to make sure that we don't remove that one. Again, we're only going to loosen it per the instructions here. I believe they only want you to loosen it maybe, let's see, and loosen the circle bolt pin that's the opposite of the dowel pin slot in the picture below. Proceed to remove the 4 retaining bolts. So you're only going to loosen this maybe, I believe it is about 1 turn at a max, and that'll loosen the cover up. So what we're going to do next is we're going to take the remaining 4 screws out of here so we can gain access to the inside and drop that limiter in. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and get those, get these broken loose, and I'm going to bring you back for that part of the install. And welcome back. So I just want to show you that this was only broken loose and removed about 1 turn, but we took the other 4 out. Now this is the longer one with the pin, and if you remember, that pin went inside of this hole here because it goes inside of that tool, in between those 2 little prongs on that tool. But what we're going to do next is, per the instruction, So we've got the limiter sitting here. We've got our tool here. We're going to slide that off to the side. We're going to take our little billet piece of material here. Kind of looks like a C. And with the C facing out towards the center of the phaser, per the instructions, we're going to drop it right there. So you can see, here's our tool relieving our spring tension. There's the next spot over, and there's our limiter. What we're going to do next is we're just going to, now what they want you to do per the instructions, and I've seen some individuals online do this, and I've seen some individuals online not do this, is that per comp cams, they want you to put a little bit of blue Loctite on these bolts. But I don't see any on here from the factory. And I will say these were torqued down pretty good, as it took an impact gun to break those loose. You can kind of see it here in the background. That's just an electric impact. Okay. So there we go. I'm just getting the oil cleaned off of these, because I am going to put a little bit of blue Loctite on here per the instructions. Oh, that's a bit much. I'm going to wipe some of that off. There we go. Now remember, the one with the pin goes here. So I'm just going to start that one in that opposite corner there. Grab our bit just so I can get these hands started. Grab our Loctite. Okay. We got our pieces in there. We got our limiter in there. And let me see. Rotate blank. Turn the phaser. Pin the bolts. Rotate back around. Apply blue plant. Total work to 14 minutes. We're ready for installation. Okay. Again, I'm just putting these down hand tight. I'll come back and torque them. And when I torque them, I'm going to switch out to an impact rated socket to do it. 14 foot-pounds on a T25, kind of At least to me, it seems like a bit much, and I don't want to break a bit because I've done it before. Okay, so we've got our items in there hand tight. We've got our limiter installed in the spot they want it in. What we're going to do now is that we're just going to take our tool, which relieves our spring tension, off. There we go. So you can see we got everything in. We got our limiter. Now what we're going to do now is get a torque wrench set up and go back and prep these things for torque. Again, and per the instructions and a couple other places I found online, they do say that it is 14 foot-pounds for these. So I'm gonna try it at that. I'll bring you back and let you know how that goes. And I'll bring you back in a bit. So I thought you might like to see some of this in action. So I got my torque, just kind of what I'm doing, not that you have to do it this way. This is a little bit cumbersome and kind of eats into your hands a little bit. So if you actually want a pair of gloves, or just grab a shop towel and grab it while you do this. But as I do each one, and I am trying to do them crisscross from each other, it's like the next one I'll jump to is going to more than likely be this one. Then I'll jump to this one and then this one. As I get these done, I'm just taking a silver Sharpie and just drawing a line through the top of the fastener. That way I know I've completed that one, and I don't, also it's a good indication to make sure that you don't forget one as well. And I am using a digital torque wrench here. You can probably just see it off camera. Okay, it's almost there. Okay. Got it. I'm going to move on to the next one, so I'm going to jump to this one over here next. What I'm doing, I'm just doing it slowly and kind of creeping up on it. There we go. That was that one. Now we got one left. I'm not going to lie. This much torque on those little fasteners kind of creeps me out, to be honest with you. But like I said, in order to break them off, it took an impact gun to break the torque on them, and that was the torque from the factory. I couldn't find actual Mopar literature that said, what the torque should be. Okay. Perfect. Okay, so we've got all of our screws torqued. We know that we have them torqued because we marked them as we did them. And we know that we've got our limiter installed at this point into our original phaser. And this phaser is now ready to go back into the vehicle. And yeah, it was a shame I wasn't able to use the new phaser that was purchased for this. But again, screw up on my own part. Left that phaser in kind of a questionable state, and to be honest with you, The first time I was going through this and I was putting that limiter in there, when I was putting the bolts back into the top cover of the new phaser, there was this one right here, that didn't quite fit in well, and I actually had to kind of jiggle it around and play with it to finally get it to line up and go in. Not that that's a cause for concern, but when we were doing this one, you'll notice I was able to start them all and get them all to go in, and again, without an issue, without having to jiggle it and realign things and things of that nature. So again, this has been running fine for 30-something thousand miles. There's no reason why that it can't go back in the vehicle, and I feel better about the way this one went together versus the way the new one went together. And learn from my mistakes. Okay, other than that, that will do it for this one. And I'll go ahead and yeah, I think I'll go ahead and just post this as a separate video. That way it'll be a nice short one for a change versus the longer ones that we have been doing. And yeah, I know I like to talk. I'm rambling. And then when we get to doing the cam install, we'll bring you back for that one. It'll be a little while before we get to the point that we're ready to install that piece. But when we do, I'll definitely bring you back. Like I said, I'll put a link in the description to the directions on the cop cams install, as well as install instructions, I should say, as well as Reignited's video where he was basically doing the same thing. And I will chat you later. Thanks.